to my channel. I'm back. I'm really excited to be back. I mentioned in my last video that things had been really hectic and that carried through into November. So I decided pretty early on to skip my updates for the month of November and just focus on kind of getting through it and focusing on just being content for this month, especially with Thanksgiving here in the United States. So that is what we did. So clearly I have a lot of updates. Feel free to use the timestamps in the description if you'd like to skip around. This video will include our November spending overview and budgeting our first December paycheck using YNAB, as well as some structural changes in my budget and some debt updates. I do have a link in the description as well. YNAB offers everyone a free trial period of their budgeting software for 34 days, but after that trial period, if you use my link, you will get an additional 30 days for free, and I'll get 30 days for free, so it's a win-win. So Trent worked a lot of hours at his side job in the beginning of November, and we made some pretty cool moves with our budget because of that. But I also had a lot of work obligations take precedence because our fiscal year ended in October, and I had a bunch of reports due that I had to reconcile and collaborate with various people on. So it wasn't something I could just whip out. It took up a lot of my time, and honestly, I've hit that point in my pregnancy where I'm just exhausted all the time. And then Trent was notified that he was a close contact in mid-November at his job. So he was put on quarantine for 2 weeks because of possible exposure. Fortunately, there is COVID pay because of the Families First Act, so we won't be taking an income hit. And as awful as this is to say, he would have had to go to work on Thanksgiving if he wasn't in quarantine. And he's come back fully negative on repeat testing. So he got kind of a stressful staycation, and I got to have him home for the holiday. So everything ended up working out all right. So let's just go through what our November spending looked like. If you have a keen eye, you'll have noticed right away that our second credit card is paid off. We have had a $3,500 balance on this card since March of this year. It was our first time ever carrying a credit card balance, so that has definitely been something that was weighing on me for the past year, and it was amazing to just go in and get it paid off. We managed to do it by putting Trent's $2,200 side job income towards it and then taking the rest from these sinking funds and emergency savings. So, oops. From a risk mitigation standpoint, this probably wasn't the ideal move for us to make. We really reduced our financial liquidity, and obviously we had to drain some savings that were earmarked for other things. But prior to this August, we had always operated on just a $1,000 emergency fund. So, well, not always, but for the last 2 years at least. And before that, we had no savings. So this weirdly makes me feel more comfortable, which is something that I'm trying to train out of myself, honestly. I was a Dave Ramsey follower for many years, and I still have that gazelle mentality against the debt cheetah, and that's not necessarily the best way to handle your finances, in my opinion. So, all of that aside, what's done is done, and I'm very happy to have this debt off of our shoulders. I don't think paying off debt is ever going to be really a bad thing, but I do want to establish a buffer to keep ourselves from ever having to go back into debt, and that's the component that's missing from some of my decision making. So it really is retraining how I interact with our finances and kind of a learning curve or trial by fire, if you will. All of our monthly bills were right on, with the exception of our heating fuel. That was about 280 when I had only planned for 150 or 180. You'll also notice that our daycare line is missing. I paid our December daycare for Remy, and she is still attending this whole month. And then we are going to pull her out starting the first of the year. We came to kind of a difficult decision this month. Trent is going to turn in his notice that his last day of work will be the 31st of December. So, starting on the new year, he's going to be a stay at home dad during the day and try to bump his side job hours so that we can keep making debt progress. Right now, he brings in a guaranteed $300 per weekend, so counting that plus my income, we are going to be able to operate very comfortably and continue building emergency savings and sinking fund savings. But there is not going to be very much above that to do anything extra. If he were to continue working full time, He makes about 3,200 per month. The only daycare option available, which is where Remy is at now, charges 902 per month for Remy and then 960 a month for kids under 2, which would be Wesley and our new baby. And there's no sibling discount or anything like that. So we'd be paying over $2,800 a month for Trent to make $3,200 a month. That's a net income of $400, and it's just not worth it for him to go work for someone else, risk COVID exposure because he works at a hospital, wear himself out, work his side gig when he can probably just make up that difference or more by staying home with the kids during the day. And then he, for his side gig, only has to go work an hour or two in the evening. So it takes some pressure off. It allows him to kind of be the boss of his own time at his house. And it'll be nice not to worry about our newborn in daycare. So it took some time for me to acclimate to the idea, but it just seems like the best move for us at this time. Real talk for a second, it's hard with kind of the season of life we're in to imagine things changing or improving, but I need to remind myself that the kids aren't going to need daycare forever. Eventually, they'll all be in school. Trent and I will be able to both be back in work if that's what we both want to do. Our debt obligations will eventually be paid off. Like, progress is slowing down right now, but we're still headed in the right direction. We're doing okay, and I just need to be content and enjoy the journey because this is kind of what life is about, and I want to enjoy these days with my family. Another interesting update, this is kind of funny, positive funny. Apparently, when I recorded our student loans into YNAB, which was in August, I believe, I took them from Undebit, which is a debt tracking software, and I had recorded them there probably a year prior and then never really used it again until August when I logged in and got our debt info off of it. And I think what happened was that Undebit was still tracking them accruing interest at their interest rates. But of course, all of them should have gone into forbearance with zero interest. So when I logged into our student loan websites a few days ago, mine are all through FedLoan and Trensor through Navient. The overall outstanding balance was like $1,000 lower for each of us than I had anticipated. So I very happily updated each of these tracking accounts, and our debt, in addition to paying off our credit card, is now sitting at right at 94,000. And our net worth has now officially dipped into the negative 70,000s range, which sounds like an odd thing to celebrate, but that little error means that we actually have $2,000 less to pay off than I had anticipated, which is totally a win in my book. I will take it. Back to our November spending. Our grocery budget ended up being really high. That's a combination of poor planning and a push order for some things that hopefully will make our grocery budget go lower than planned for a few months. Health was just prenatals. Hygiene and beauty is high because I jumped on the Sephora 20% off sale to restock some of my skincare and makeup. And then I also got Trent some beard maintenance supplies he's been needing. I'm like whispering because he's right in the other room. He has always gone to a barber for beard grooming, which sounds so funny, but there is no one up here who can do that for him. So he's going to try and learn how to maintain it the way he likes himself. And I'm whispering because it's a Christmas present, so he doesn't know. Well, hopefully he doesn't know that that is here actually and wrapped under the tree. Cleaning and home supplies, that's just some paper products, cleaning supplies. Fuel was a little bit higher than normal. The first half of the month, we were driving back and forth to work multiple times a day because we both work at the same place and we only have one car. And then we also had to work Remy's daycare schedule into things. So there was just a lot of driving. I anticipate this to stay normal, like 120-ish in December, and then probably drop going into January. Well, obviously, we're going to Spokane in January, so there's going to be a lot of abnormality to our budget in January, February, and March. So I used to have childcare in here. I just moved it up here because I created a new kids like master category. Childcare was low because we didn't need to buy any diapers this month. We had a good sized stock up that we're using down. So I think I will need to get a box in December. And then I also added pull ups for Remy because she is potty trained during the day, but we've been putting her in a diaper at night. because she still goes to the bathroom at night. So we're gonna try pull-ups because it's possible for her to get that on herself. So kind of just trying to foster independence for her. And then I'll just briefly talk about this as a new line item. I put it under our kids category. Remy is going to be 3 in March, and we probably could have started even earlier. She is very quick. She likes to be independent, and she already is basically doing chores. So we figured that we should start working like the finance side into it with her. This I put 15 a month. It'll probably only end up being like $2 every week. So my plan is to use dimes and give her dimes for like making her bed in the morning, stuff like that. It is going to be action based reimbursement. So, like, we will ask her to feed the dog, and then the moment that she's fed the dog, we'll give her the dime to kind of put in her piggy bank. And then for Christmas, I got her a really cool save, give, spend. Sorry if you can hear my kids screaming in the background. Save, give, spend piggy bank, so that she can start handling money and start making the connection between like earning money and then getting to buy the things that she wants. It's going to be really low stakes, just dipping our toes in and kind of, I guess, figuring out how we want to teach our kids this. Trent didn't really have any education around personal finance. His twin seems to be, he seems to have a pretty good head on his shoulders about finances. And he's actually asked me a couple of questions, which is cool just because I'm such a nerd about it. But I had a little more exposure growing up. My parents were one of those Dave Ramsey followers who wishes that they were doing the program but never actually did the program. Sorry, mom and dad, if you ever listen to this. But it's the reality that I grew up with the knowledge, but never really the example. And so, obviously, Trent and I got ourselves into a fair amount of debt. And now that I have like taken it upon myself to educate myself about all of this, we're definitely headed in the direction that I always had heard about but had never acted on. So, anyways, super awkward way to talk about all of this, but it's all definitely a learning experience. So, that's one of the biggest reasons why I love listening to Gen Z and I think it's Brittany with Millennial Making It. I'm so sorry if I got that wrong, but I'll link them below. I think both of them are like early 20s, and it's so cool to hear the progress that they are making and the things that they are doing, because even though I'm only like 5 years older than them, they are going to be so far ahead of anyone else that they know. And I just massively applaud them for that. So, and hopefully they keep posting on their YouTube videos for years to come because I am so excited to see where they're going. And actually, I'll go ahead and just like mass link the channels that I am currently really into. Even though I didn't post anything for November, I still kept up with all of you guys. And I literally wake up in the morning, reconcile my budget, takes like 2 minutes, and then get on YouTube to see if anybody has posted. So I really look forward to watching what other people in the community are doing. But anyways, massive tangent. Back down here, no pet or gift purchases, and then fees and fines was just a small currency conversion fee from our bank for one of my Christmas purchases. Software subscriptions were all the usual. Plus, we did a Mario Deluxe party game on our Switch. We had Thanksgiving off together, so we lived it up a little, and it was super fun, and we definitely beat the game, so because we're awesome. Fun money. I didn't budget anything for dining out, and we hit up the coffee shop quite a few times, as well as got dinner takeout a few times. So I just went ahead and transferred my spending money back and paid for dining out with it, since I hadn't spent any of my personal money. And then all of our sinking funds and emergency savings are back to zero except for the emergency fund, and that happened to make the credit card payment. So I will start rebuilding those later in December. And then I also had spending in our Christmas fund. I spent about $1,200 on gifts for everyone. I have what I'm estimating to be about $120 left going towards 2 more gifts, which is already budgeted in December, and then I'm done for this year, so I'm happy with that. As you guys can see, I've made quite a few changes in my budget layout. This happened slowly over the course of the last month, as it does. And so, yeah, so far I'm really happy with how it's functioning for me. I have all of our holidays and birthdays. I actually had someone comment recommending that I add our birthdays into their own like sinking fund because we do tend to spend more on our birthdays. So, and then you guys will probably see Olivia in here quite a bit. We actually are not finding out the gender of our new baby till birth, but I really think that it's a girl. And if it's a girl, then we're going to name her Olivia. So this is actually an homage to my mom. Her name is Via. And so somehow I was so proud of myself. I made the connection that it sounds like Olivia, but she spells it Vija. And so I thought about doing Olivija, but I like this spelling a little better. So if you see Olivia now in here, she's got a couple of categories. That is who that is. So you heard it here first. And if it's a boy, we're screwed because I have no idea what we're naming a boy. Okay, so on that note, baby plans. I've added quite a few lines here. I ran a really detailed projected budget for the next 5 months without Trent's income starting in January to see like if we could make that move and also to see how and when I would be able to fund everything based on expected income. And it's looking really positive. I'm overfunding some of these baby fund lines. I'm estimating I'm over by at least 2,500. And if that's the case and nothing drastic happens, the extras can go on the medical bills that will be coming next spring, most likely. So I will probably move the leftovers to my medical savings after the trip. I'm storing money in these categories, but the actual spending will come out of my like travel line, which is currently hidden because we haven't been doing much traveling, dining out, baby supplies, and so on. I'll just move the money into the appropriate category when the spending occurs, and then this section of my budget will be deleted once the trip is over. I did have a question in the comments on a previous video from Rachel that I never addressed, so I will answer it here. She asked how we're going to make sure we're in Spokane for my delivery. And basically, we are flying to Spokane on January 22nd, which is 4 weeks prior to my expected due date of February 19th. We are also investing in flight insurance the 1st of January that basically co-ops with our health insurance so that if I were to go into labor before we make it back into the road system, we won't end up with a huge life flight bill. There are no labor and delivery providers where we're at, so if that did happen, they would take me to Anchorage for delivery, and then the Spokane location would just be reworked to be Anchorage, basically. We're obviously hoping that that doesn't happen, mainly because my mom, who is a stay-at-home housewifey, is going to quarantine the first 14 days after our arrival separately from us, and then come help us out with childcare and everything while we're in the hospital. Hospitals are cracking down on having children and, of course, visitors in the facility. So we need someone to take care of our kids, basically, and we wouldn't have that in Anchorage. So if we do end up in Anchorage, Trent would probably have to be staying at the Airbnb with the kids while I deliver. So definitely don't want him to miss the baby. So because we aren't finding out the gender of this baby, we aren't buying much prior to birth. We're going to start stocking up once we know what kind of clothes to get and stuff. So that's why there's so much going into baby items here. But okay, baby overload. Moving on. That is just about it for catching you guys up and closing out the month of November. I'm going to go ahead and enter Trent's paycheck. Everything is reconciled, and I've already updated the tax and benefits information in this transaction, so I just need to, oops. So YNAB has been like jumping around on me, the most recent update, and it's driving me crazy. Okay, so I just need to get into the budget and allocate that into, we'll open that for you. December paycheck withholding. Okay, so now this to be budgeted matches the actual amount that got deposited into our account. So this looks right. Okay, so we don't have to budget anything into credit cards anymore, which is like hugely awesome in my opinion. Actually, I noticed earlier that it has this like really cool nothing to pay debt free is a beautiful thing. And it just warmed my heart to see that because it felt so good to pay this off, you guys. So the first thing I want to do is finish funding these living expenses. I'm going to skip groceries for a moment. I will come back to that. And everything else in here is Amazon Subscribe and Save, which comes out on the 8th. So I want to make sure those are funded. And then the same goes for this child care supplies. Just a little side note. You can't, well, you can't open up a 529 in the name of a non-born human. So I'm just going to put 25 a month in here for the next couple months. And then once you have to have their social security number. So once she gets her social security card, we will open her own 529 account. And then I think I'll probably have close to 100 saved up. I'll go ahead and just deposit that as a lump sum into the account, and then I'll do 25 a month as an auto draft after, which is what I do with our other two kiddos. So I'll just go ahead and underfunded that, and then might as well just finish that category off. Okay, and then I have to fund 123.75 of this medical category because we have a payment due in a few days. This was a bill that I got from my ultrasound in October. In total, the bill was about $500, but they gave me a payment plan over 4 months that I took advantage of because there was no fee for doing so and no interest on the amount owed. So we just kind of spread that out a little bit. So we're going to budget for upcoming, and then I'll finish funding this category with our next paycheck. Okay, now that that's taken care of, I should be able to fund the rest of our monthly bills for December. Okay, so technically speaking, with the exception of groceries, nothing else needs funded to pay for December. There's savings, sinking funds, spending that month over month I would like to accomplish, but because we are going to be on basically a reduced income. What? Remy just came in and totally lost my train of thought, but basically I'm going to call this good for the moment. I'll put this last 315 into groceries. I'll very easily be able to fund the rest of December with my paycheck next week, including my sinking funds and savings. And then I'm just going to pour the rest of our December income into the baby plans fund and just save, save, save. I'll start hitting up our January obligations probably with my last paycheck in December, regardless of how far we get down this baby plans list. And then we're just going to be playing it by ear for the next few months because things are going to be so abnormal until we get back in March and get settled back in. But there you have it. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you guys are all staying safe, and I will talk to you on the next one. Bye.